I think the biggest mistake that I've seen in my 27 years are folks that have done extremely well, and they've got a very large estate, and they didn't put an estate plan in place before they passed away. And therefore, the taxes that were passed on to the spouse and children of this estate were just tremendous. And so I think everybody, especially a high net worth person, has to make sure they have an estate plan put in place to make sure that they're covered and their family's covered upon their passing. Yeah, to go to the latter part of your question, a trust is always going to be the superior between a trust and a will. I always use an analogy that a trust is like a living person. It's going to really guide and direct your family on your trust, what you want to do, and you make these plans before you pass away. So I always say it's not planning from the grave, but you're doing some planning ahead of time to make sure that your estate, that your property, that your jewelry, that your income, that your money goes to the proper channels. A will is very simple, but a will can also be probated. So you got to be very careful about, do you need a will? If you do not have a lot of assets, a will probably is fine because you'll have named beneficiaries. But if you get into multiple things in an estate, property, large buckets of money, different things like that, then a trust is going to be your friend, and you just need to work with an attorney to get that put together. Using different vehicles, like do you have different monies into Roth IRAs? So we have no taxes on that. Are you taking care of your RMDs? Because if you're not, that could be a tax issue for your family. And the single best way to take care of your estate and take care of your family, if you're one of these high net worth individuals, is a really solid life insurance plan. That way, upon your passing, the money passes to your family's tax-free, and maybe they have to pay a little bit of tax, but they'll have tax-free money to do that with it. I think gifting is a great thing. It's something that my wife and I do. You know, you got certain limits where you can gift your family members a certain amount of money every year. That's a great tax deduction for you, and it does come off of your estate tax, top of the line estate tax number. Something else we're seeing a lot of people do now is going from, they're giving money to different charities. So it's going from custodian to custodian. Someone has an RMD and they don't need that RMD, required minimum distribution. They're taking that money and directing it to their favorite church or favorite charity, and then they're not having to pay the taxes on that money. I think you need to continue to give, and I think charitable giving is a great avenue, and I do think passing money along, gift giving to your family is another strong point to help you avoid some of those large taxes. One key I think people need to know is you got to go from custodian to custodian. If you take possession of that money, you're going to have to pay taxes on it. So you need to make sure that if you have a IRA out there and you're wanting to protect some of your estate taxes and you're wanting to give that to charity, you need to make sure that it goes directly from that custodian to the charitable custodian. And that can be a church. It could be your favorite charity. You need to look at the tax laws to make sure that they're set up properly to take your donation. That way you do not have to pay the taxes on that, nor does the charity, which is a beautiful thing. So charitable giving is just such a great way to avoid estate taxes. Yeah, so I automatically think of one of my favorite artists ever, and that's Prince. Prince did not have an estate plan set up before he passed away. And the amount of legal battles between all of his family, the attorney fees, the probate fees, it's just drug on and on and on. So his estate net worth has dwindled down tremendously with all the legal fees. And there's been several other famous people that passed away without having the proper structure of estate planning set up. The bottom line is that the probate fees, the legal fees are going to eat your estate alive because they're going to drag it out as long as they can. So again, high net worth individuals, make sure you have an estate plan set up and established. I think simple is to come in and work with a fiduciary firm that can look at your full estate, look at all of the vehicles that you have in that estate, make sure they're properly set up, make sure you have named beneficiaries. If you need a will, let's make sure you have a will. If you need a trust, let's make sure you have a trust. If you need a large life insurance policy to cover those taxes, that's where we can help you. So come in, have a conversation with our fiduciary advisors. Go to GIAplantoday.com.